Hi, this is the Longhorn monthly community meeting, and today is November 8th, 2019. In today's agenda, we are talking about the upcoming 0.7.0 release, which is going to be our first beta release of Longhorn. And also, I'm going to explain a little bit about Longhorn's architecture and how you're going to see the Longhorn's components working with each other and what's each pod and the deployment in your Kubernetes cluster means. So let's get started. So for the last month, a lot of things has happened. The majority event is that Longhorn has joined CNCF as the CNCF project. And Longhorn is currently in sandbox stage, and we are going to have a talk in the upcoming KubeCon, and I think it's about Wednesday, and also we're going to have a talk at the Cloud Native Days, which is co-hosted event with KubeCon. So if you want to meet us, you can see us there, and we'd like to talk about what you think about Longhorn and what you can expect from it. So with the beta out of the door, we are looking to release the GA product in the next year. We don't have a definite timeline yet, but we'll update you guys as soon as possible when we have one. So let's take a look at what is in the next release. Let me share my screen. All right, so if you take a look at the main repo, and we just released the Longhorn 0.7.0 RC1 release candidate first. And as I said, 0.7.0 will be our first beta release. And in fact, it's one point you need to, the users need to pay attention that we have raised the minimal Kubernetes version to now 1.14.0, which means that if you are running Kubernetes with version less than that, Longhorn 0.7.0 won't be able to support that. And the main reason of upgrading the Kubernetes version is that we have added support for the CSI 1.1 and with raw block device block volume support. So that requires a certain number of Kubernetes version to be used in your cluster. Another notice change in the backend, in fact, it's massive change in the backend, but not really that visible to the user if everything goes well, is that we have changed the Longhorn CRD API version from the longhorn.rancher.io/v1 alpha1 to longhorn.io/v1 beta1. So that is because that Longhorn we have joined the CNCF, and now we are CNCF project. It's obvious that we no longer just umbrella on the rancher, so we need to move from the rancher organization into the Longhorn organization of its own. But this is basically like just you change the API group in the concept of Kubernetes is pretty big deal. In the semantic ways is that the whole API calling path has been changed. We have to migrate and upgrade all the API to the new ones. We already have supported that, but that is what I consider a little bit more risky than what you normally done with, say, just upgrade the API within the same API group and even with a different API version. So because now this part doesn't really have Kubernetes support. Kubernetes doesn't support you just migrate one API group to another. So we done a lot of work to make this work. But still, we're currently is still release candidate 1, and we're heavily testing the path and make sure that the upgrade will be as smooth as possible for the users. But if you have any problems during the upgrade in formal releases, just shoot us a message on Slack and in the CNCF Slack, and we are looking to that immediately. So there's not much features to talk about in the 0.7.0. There's one thing many people has asked before is that why Longhorn doesn't automatically reattach volumes if something goes wrong. So the reason before is that we don't really know that what is caused the volume to be detached automatically. So we have a long supported if the node was node to reboost, cause the volume to be detached automatically, we'll attach it without question. So, but later we found out, okay, the Docker restart can detach the volume. The Kubernetes upgrade, in fact, the Kubernetes upgrade, well, at least the minor version upgrade, like from 1.13 to 1.14, we're going to shut all volume down. So that's also because that's Kubernetes upgrade, we're going to restart all the containers and all the pods Kubernetes manage. So in that part, we realized that it's probably not enough to deal with every separate cases. So and also we had a little bit hesitated to do it before is because we know we can automatically reattach the volume as a block device on your host easily, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the volume will be usable to you. So for example, if the one block device was detached and somehow is the backend disconnected, the Linux kernel will still recognize that block device, but when the user try to write to that block device or read from it, the kernel will think, okay, I cannot find this where this information, where this read-write bits should route to. So I'm going to just say disconnect this device, and I'm going to remount the bound point of that block device to be the read-only. So before we didn't find a way to recover from this situation, because even as our reattached volume after we decide that okay, reattach is doable, the volume will be reattached to the host, but that mount point is still pointing to the old volume using the old major and minor numbers. If you understand what's a little more internal how Linux works, major and minor numbers basically defines that what's the block device or what the device is. So if they're using the same major minor numbers, even they are using the same major minor numbers with this old Longhorn device, we still need to do a remount manually on the host to make this volume work. But if they're not using the same major minor number, we didn't realize there's a way that we can do it to make sure that the mount point is still accessible. And just before the proof of concept stage for the Kubernetes upgrade, we found out that we can in fact layer up the mount point. We just direct mount the new correct device on the node for the same mount point, and of course that will work. And also we need to go to the host to do this mount. So we are good. Of course, we have the privilege on the privileged container to do this. A little bit tricky, but it's pretty doable. So in the end, we decide to have this feature automatically reattach the volume. In fact, it's not just automatically reattach, and also is if you have any volumes already mounted on that node, we're going to check the mount point and we are going to automatically mount the volume back to that mount point. And of course, we are going to need to run multiple unmount later because we're using layered mount point, but that shouldn't be an issue. So that is how we got this automatically reattached volume feature check-in in the 0.7.0 release. And then the second big thing in this release is the CSI, which is the container storage interface. We was stuck in the 0.4 CSI spec before because that we don't want to, we are waiting for the users to upgrade to a newer Kubernetes so we can use it. So we can switch to the newer CSI version. So that is what happens now. So we decide that In fact, 1.14 Kubernetes coming out early this year. It has been almost more than half year, three quarters past since 1.14 come out. So I think it's probably reasonable to expect users to have the 1.14 set it up. And also, in fact, the rancher as the container orchestration platform starting support 1.15 as a default. 1.14 will be the minimum. The rancher 2.3 supported, or probably 2.2 something. So I think that's probably a good indicator that 1.14 is new enough and have enough user support, so we can do it. So now we decide to upgrade CSI strategically to the 1.1, and but the one good side effect of that is we now have the raw block device volume support with CSI 1.1, which is only available at 1.14. So that is one thing. But CSI, because you see that we have changed our, we have changed the owner of the Longhorn. Now the owner of Longhorn is the CNCF. So previously the CSI driver was named as rancher.io/Longhorn or longhorn.rancher.io. So those fields need to be updated, or the CSI storage class need to be recreated. So we are working on that, and we are going to have a document and help you to migrate from the CSI 0.4, which is before the Longhorn 0.62, to the CSI 0.7.0, which is CSI 1.1 support. The third thing is in fact brought by user, and that is the Kubernetes, the K3S, which is rancher's one product, and so has released the 0.10.0, but our user found out that the Longhorn just doesn't work. The problem is we realized that the K3S wasn't using the standard CSI path before, and the Longhorn has made adjustment to that. But in 0.10.0, the K3S has changed back to use the standard Kubernetes path, but Longhorn doesn't know that. So we configure the CSI in the different places. So that's resulting in the CSI failure. So in the Longhorn 0.7.0, we decide to make it compatible with the K3S 0.10 plus. But for K3S less than that version, you need to configure the parameter. I think it's called, you need to set kubelet root dir to valid kubelet. Okay, no, not that one. I think it's if you want to deploy the new Longhorn version and before 0.10, you need to set kubelet root dir to the data dir / agent kubelet, and the data dir is K3S. You can by default will be the valid rancher / K3S. So that is the how you set up the 0.7.0 with the K3S before 0.10. And also we added an NFS 4.1 support, which we didn't, which is also reported by the user that the NFS4 works, but 4.1 doesn't work. So we look into that and make the change. So there's one note about upgrade, that the upgrade from the Longhorn 0.62, we only support that from 0.62 to the 0.7.0 because the whole upgrade path is written only for the 0.62. So don't upgrade any other versions from the 0.7.0. And if you want to upgrade to 0.7.0 with the previous Longhorn versions, please upgrade to 0.62 first. And make sure everything's running on the 0.62 and in a stable situation, and then upgrade to 0.7.0. Okay, so we are trying to make the cut of the formal 0.7.0 release before the KubeCon, the week after next one. So we're still working hard on that, towards that, and I hope you'll see the formal release very soon, and of course along with the documents, and help you upgrade to the latest and greatest release. So that's about 0.7.0. So the next thing I want to talk about is I want to, okay, so in fact, I can show you a bit on the what's the new Longhorn 7070 release looks like. So in fact, nothing has been changed. Nothing much has been changed. The UI is still almost the same as before. And but you see that our logo has changed, and this is our designer make a new logo for us as to join the CNCF, and the version and in the volumes, everything is almost the same, right? So the 7070 release is it's more like a stabilized release and a transitional from the alpha to beta. So we didn't, and also it's very short release. You remember that 062 was only released about 1 month ago. So we didn't have time to pack many features into that, but of course, we are going to address that after the 070 release and after the KubeCon in North America, in San Diego. And by the way, if you are heading to the San Diego, I would like to meet you there, and I would like to hear the feedback from users, a few of you, and tell me what you think about Longhorn and how can we improve. And now I'm going to show you how you normally can see the components between the Longhorn and what these components do. Let me have a new share. All right, so now you're looking at my iTerm terminal. All right, sorry, one moment. Okay, so now this environment is demo, yes. So this environment is we have deployed the Longhorn 0.7.0 and the RC1 release. As you see here, there's multiple components here. And the first one, if you notice that a little bit changed, because normally you only see the 3 CSI attacher and the CSI provisioner in the previous release. And now we have a compatible CSI attacher. The name is not final yet, but what it's doing is trying, as I mentioned before, the driver name was changed from rancher.io/longhorn to the longhorn.io or driver.longhorn.io. So that is, and we need to make it compatible for the old volumes to use the old name, and also of course we need to migrate and transition to the new name. So that is why this extra CSI attacher was created. So we have a CSI attacher, a CSI provisioner, and also the Longhorn CSI plugin. So these 3 parts is being formed to support the CSI running on every Kubernetes node. And we are the CSI attacher and provisioner as a scale of 3, which is it's not running on the per node. It's just say that if you have one node is down, the other 2 should be able to pick up the responsibility, and that is basically for high availability use. So if you want to only have 2 or only have 1, and you don't mind that have a little bit disturbance on your availability, and you can feel free to scale them down. And also you can set that in our deployment script. And the engine image -ei, this is running as a demo set. And this demo set is deploying the Longhorn engine binary. As you know, that Longhorn is a microservice-based storage system. So we need to deploy the binary on each node, and then the instance manager, later I will talk about that, and the Longhorn manager can pick them up and start using the same version of that engine image. So you have to ensure that engine image in the running state, and if you see that something like you see that the driver deployer was crash, when you have first time installed Longhorn, it's because the driver deployer is waiting for the manager to be up, and the manager is waiting for the engine image to be ready before manager can say, okay, now I can have everything components ready and responsible for the new request that you have. So the instance manager here is what we have new in the 0.6 release. Before 0.6, we are creating 1 pod for each volume. And now without doing that, we are creating just one part for every engines on one node and one part for every replicas on one node. So the instance manager and the instance manager for engine and the replica are running each per node, but they're not daemon set. The Longhorn controls their life cycle because it has to do with the instance manager must match the version with engine image. So they have tons of some relationship there and need to be taken care of. So we can take a look at what's inside this instance manager. So now you can see that this instance manager, so in fact, it's a replica instance manager because you can see -r here. And this instance manager is running, of course, instance manager daemon set. And also this instance manager daemon is able to spin up the replicas and the engines on demand and of course till them down. So another two things you see that is replica is have been started and which node is using and all this configuration stuff here. And if you want to, this is only for the debug purposes. The normal user shouldn't need to deal with this, but if you want to take a look at what's running inside, you can use this Longhorn Instance Manager process allow-s, and you will see that now it's currently have a run replica running, and what's the argument, and what's this, and other configurations for this. So another part is, of course, I mentioned the CSI plugin before, and CSI plugin is a daemon set. In fact, it's very easy, just show what are the daemon sets. So the engine image is a daemon set, and the CSI plugin is a daemon set, and the manager is daemon set. The CSI plugin is used to communicate with CSI attacher and CSI provisioner, and they form together a CSI system to provide a CSI driver, to provide the driver to the Kubernetes, so Kubernetes can create PV and PVC using the Longhorn. So the driver deployer here is what we wrote before, and for the flex volume and the different version of CSI, I think we probably want to retire it because now we're having CSI 1.1, and we decided now to make it compatible with the previous versions. So at least the logic in the driver deployer, which is used to deploy CSI driver, should be greatly simplified. And the key components of the whole manage layer is the Longhorn manager. So Longhorn manager is running as a daemon set, as you see here, and on every node. And of course, this is a 3-node cluster. And the Longhorn managers provide all the information you want and provide all the service for the Longhorn, like create, delete volumes, and attach, detach, make backup, make snapshot, all this kind of work. Everything is done in the Longhorn manager. So if everything goes wrong, not everything goes wrong. Yeah, of course, if everything goes wrong, there will be a panic. But if something goes wrong, if you want to take a look, say that, okay, my pod somehow wasn't up. I hope that will not be the case, but if that happens, say that pod is somehow attached, supposed to be attached to demo 1, and you can, oh, by the way, the KL command is the kube control -n Longhorn system. We just make it easier, so it's just we just have a short have an alias named the KL for that because we're using it so often. So you can take a look at, say, the demo 1 has this manager, and this is the manager's log. So if anything goes wrong, it will show up at least in the manager's log. Another part of the log you might want is to take a look at the Longhorn CSI plugins log. So if everything is going fine, say you can attach, detach them in the managers in the Longhorn UI, but you cannot do that in the using the CSI or in the Kubernetes, and you probably want to take a look at CSI in plug. And there's a bunch of things here, and the container we normally have is this one. So this is the, okay, just to repeat that, this is the Longhorn CSI plugin container inside the Longhorn CSI plugin pod. And this is the how Kubernetes communicate and CS communicate to the Longhorn plugin. And each call, if you see some error here, there can be a cue that something unexpected has happened. And of course, in fact, almost the only problem we have right now with CSI is it wasn't the patch wasn't the CSI patch wasn't installed correctly, like the case was happened with the K3S, but that should be corrected. Okay. So that's, yeah. Okay, so that is about the Longhorn Manager, and of course we can take a lot of deeper into Longhorn Manager and think what's on. Okay, somebody's liking me. I will talk about it later. So the last component is the Longhorn UI, and the UI is what do you see here? And the UI are only going to work after the Longhorn Manager was started, and the manager will going to work only if the engine image was installed correctly. So, but of course, you don't worry about all this. Everything will should be done automatically, and that is how we design Longhorn to be simple and easy to use. So let me see if anything else I want to cover. Yes, I think that's all for today's session. And if you're looking at this recording, thank you for looking, and you can see that if you have any comments, feel free to reach us through the Slack. And you see now you can join the CNCF Slack and the Longhorn channel to find us. Of course, feel free to file an issue if you have anything unexpected, or you spot any bugs and give us feedback. And thank you and have a good day.